Hey everyone, it's Andrew Schiffman.
Harry Turcott here. We both worked at MTV in the music and talent department in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it was a time where music videos, TRL, The Jersey Shore, and the Osbournes ruled the airwaves.
Yes, Andrew, those are some great years. So tune in every week as we catch up with old MTV coworkers, record label execs, VJs, and artists.
I can't wait, Perry. We'll give you insights into meeting superstars before they were superstars and some juicy secrets from that golden age of MTV.
So grab your headphones and get ready to relive the era of music television and the people who shaped a generation.
And we're back, 2025. Happy New Year. This is airing the third week of January, but this is our first taping of the new year with a very special guest. But before we get there, Perry, first time I'm seeing you in 25. How are you?
I'm doing well, Andrew. I can't believe it's 2025 already. And
Thank goodness. I'm done with
yes,
24.
we
Fuck
are
that.
in our second year of this podcast,
There we go.
which is amazing.
I like that. There we go.
Yeah.
So who are we talking to on our first taping of 2025?
So today we have Justin Tyme Prager. He is the senior director of programming at Vevo, formerly of MTV, obviously, and of Music Choice. Welcome, Justin. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hello, guys. Happy New Year to both of you. Starting the new year on a good note. No pun intended.
Very good note.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good to see you.
So let's jump into it. You've been in music video programming since the mid 90s. What was it like getting hired to do video programming at MTV, which at that time was sort of the pinnacle of music video programming? How did it happen? And what was your strategy or philosophy while you were at MTV programming music videos?
I was living out in LA and I got the call from Amy Doyle, who was heading up the MTV programming team at the time.
Did you know Amy?
I didn't know Amy at all,
So
actually.
that's a big that's a big call.
Yeah, so it's
That's
a
a big
very
phone
big
call.
call.
So I had thought that there was a Boston connection between the two of you. That's why I
No,
thought,
we didn't. Yeah, we didn't. I mean, I probably heard her name, but didn't really know her too well or anything like that. I got the call and she basically said that there was an opening, somebody just left, or somebody was leaving, I should say. Shout out to Kevin Hershey. And
He was leaving.
yeah, he was leaving to
Okay.
go to another gig, and that they heard a lot about me and wanted to talk. So I was actually in between jobs at the time, so it was actually really good timing. They flew me out, met with Michelle Dix and Tom Calderon, who was heading up all the programming. Had a really good meeting. They heard a lot about me, the experience that I had just coming from Farm Club, which was, basically a Universal Music Group experiment that lasted about a year and a half or so. Before that, though, was The Box. And that was sort of a predecessor to video on demand, where you would call up a 900 number and dial in a 3-digit code and wait for as long as you had to wait and pay 99 cents to $2.50 to watch a video back then.
wow.
Yeah, times have changed a little. So they knew of my background. Meeting went really well. And they, basically gave me a call back about, maybe a couple days later and said I had the gig. So that was
Nice and
exciting.
quick. Nice
Yeah.
and quick.
So yeah, it happened actually really quickly. The timing was a little interesting though, because
So you moved to New York
I
for the
moved to
gig, right?
well, let's put it this way. I moved to New York September 6th, 2001.
Mm.
And my first day at MTV was September 10th, 2001.
Wow.
Yeah. So we all know what happened the next day. And it was really interesting and really literally got thrust into my position. I was living in corporate housing, which was around the corner from 1515 Broadway. So I was one of the only, people that could really get to the building, the morning of 9/11. So I went in, and surprisingly, they let me in because I wasn't sure what the situation was going to be. But basically, there was really nobody else that could, get to the office because of everything that was going down, unfortunately.
And you were trained on the software?
Well, there was Selector, and I had a pretty
Right,
good idea of it, although we didn't really use it in my previous job, but I had a decent idea.
right.
Decent enough that I went in, the morning of September 11th and basically reprogrammed the whole
Yeah.
channel, with more mellow videos. It was probably the first time that some of the artists that I programmed got on the channel, like Barry Manilow maybe, because they were like, "We
Wow.
want we want totally mellow videos, nothing crazy." So I really went into yacht rock, soft rock mode in a sense, and programmed the channel ballads and things like that. Basically, videos would play, mellow videos would play, and then CBS News would cut in, and it would kind of go back and forth. It was a really interesting second day, but it taught me a lot too, to kind of get in there and basically just put my head down and do what I need to do. And I think that went a long way with the team too, which was good. It was really
Yeah.
kind of a quick intro. All right, Justin sort of knows what he's doing, so this could be good.
When I got to the music team, Emilian was my direct boss. Was she there when you were there?
She
Yeah,
was,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
So, she had her way of programming. We had 4 videos and then a break, so you gotta start a little high energy, end low, don't play 2 females back to back. Were any
right.
of those rules enforced when you were there, or what was your strategy to programming a block? And was it MTV or MTV2 or
It was
both?
both,
Yeah.
but when I was there, a lot of it was MTV2. I was heading up the programming, quote unquote, and I say that because it's not really a program thing, but TRL. I was heading up all the voting, and all of it was legit. I know a lot of people think it wasn't. I got the numbers every day and sent them down to the studio, and I handled all the programming for that. But a lot of specialty programming too. It was funny because I was programming or overseeing the videos for TRL, but I was also programming all the rock stuff and Headbangers Ball on MTV too. So it was definitely a little difference, in mindset when it came to both of those. As far as the programming goes, I've always been more of a gut person in a sense, versus this is going to sound weird, but like versus charts and data. But what I mean by that is when it comes to specialty programming, you can definitely get away with that a lot more, just in terms of if it's a metal block or if it's a hard rock block, or even if it's some of the stuff I did with the hip hop channel, as well as just some hip hop programming in general. You can sort of get away with that gut feeling more than you can when it comes to regular mainstream programming on MTV, when you really need to play the hits and the familiar faces and things like that. So when it came to the mainstreams, and that does definitely include TRL, data and charts. Once again, there could be some gut stuff as well with new artists. But when it came to more of the niche programming, that was definitely more of a gut type of situation.
And streaming numbers weren't that important. Maybe ringtones, but it was mainly the radio chart, media base that
Yeah,
we looked at
media base,
to make those.
radio, and
Yeah.
what other networks were playing as well. This was, don't forget, this was before ringtones because I was at MTV from
Oh
2001 to
yeah.
2004. So really, ringtones came in. I guess they were more kind of beeper tones, I guess, were around that time when people were making custom rings, for not even for beepers, but for two ways. And
Wow.
so I came in a little earlier than all that. It was internet, but it wasn't internet yet. No YouTube
Yeah.
or anything like that. Yeah.
So your background programming already, the box and other companies, did you feel like you could bring your strategy with you, or did you feel like you had to, change your strategy to fit a mold that was already up and running?
Being at the box, that was an interesting situation because the box, like I said, we basically offered a menu of videos and people would just
It
pick
was
them.
on the right,
But we
yeah.
had to kind of filter through those videos and make sure we're given the the best videos and the most popular videos, but some underground stuff as well. And when it came to MTV, that was the mothership. So you definitely had to be a lot more conscious of what you were going to play, whether it was MTV or MTV2 in terms of, mainstream versus more of the niche underground. So they wanted me to come in with, fresh perspective. And I think I definitely did that, trying to help, new artists break through. Not that everybody else wasn't trying to bring in new stuff as well, of course, but I just had a different look at things than probably everybody else there did at the time, just because I was coming from almost a different medium in a sense when it comes to like on demand, and Farm Club was more of an online situation. So they definitely like that, with that type of perspective versus just hitting it selector and picking things and just maybe going by the charts.
When I was there, we had a very similar role. And what I loved about being part of that team was you got to be half programmer and half label rep. And I loved coming up with strategies and campaigns to support a new premiere as well as programming video blocks. Was there a band that you remember that was part of your label rep duties that you were passionate for and you fought and you got the MTV support?
Yeah, I mean, there were a bunch.
There was loads, yeah. But any
There-
that you were really passionate about that?
well, you'll like this one, Andrew. I was really passionate about the darkness.
Okay.
Maybe you were, maybe you weren't. Maybe I'm just
I like those
stereotyping because
guys.
you're from the
Absolutely.
UK.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
the darkness was just an interesting situation because at the time it was definitely more like the hipster New York artists like Interpol and Strokes and bands like that. And then all of a sudden here comes this almost
You've
like
got that glam rock.
glam hair
Yeah.
metal in a sense, but definitely more on the glam side type of band, which those are some of the bands, the types of bands that I grew up with. So I definitely have a soft space in my heart for the darkness. Yeah, they were a little cheesy. Their songs were definitely undeniable as far as being catchy. So that took a little push. For the most part, yeah, I don't know if I had that much support because a lot of people in the department really weren't big like rock fans and rock, not just like alternative, which I loved as well. So that took a little push, but eventually
It
we got
worked,
them
right?
into we got them
Yeah.
into Buzzworthy, and that was so I figured that was a nice little
Were they
accomplishment.
a TRL band?
Yeah, I
They
mean,
must have come into the
yeah,
studio.
they hit the top 10 with, I believe in a thing called Love.
Yeah.
So they
So
definitely
we at that time, Guitar Hero was part of the Viacom family,
yeah.
and we, as in the on the digital side, we were asked to have artists play Guitar Band on video so that we could run it on MTV.com to promote Guitar Hero.
Right, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the darkness came in and they did it. And
Yeah. They were the
they were
perfect band.
so much fun to
Yeah.
work with. They were awesome.
They were the perfect band for something like that.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I would say, like, on the flip side, probably 50 Cent. He was coming from the Eminem Dre camp, so it was a no-brainer, but Wankster was really the first video that came. It wasn't in the club like a lot of people, I think that was the first one. So Wankster came, and he didn't have the best reputation at the time. I knew the mixtapes that he was coming out with, along with, like, Tuma and Butter and Yomi as well. They were all big champions of 50. And it took a little push, I think, just to get him over the edge. But once again, it was pretty undeniable, um, given that, you had the cosign from, I mean, in Interscope as a whole. But, that Dre and Eminem cosign was definitely there. So I think it took a little push, but that was definitely an easier push than the darkness.
And I saw him perform New Year's Eve.
Oh,
So all
no,
of these years later, he's still
crazy,
out
right?
there performing his hits. And I read
Yeah.
he might be doing an album with Eminem. So
Yeah.
whether that's a rumor or by the time this airs, it may be confirmed. But
Gonna be
he's still doing his thing, which is
He's
nice to
he's
see.
still
Love
killing
it.
it. Yeah, I saw him at Barclays Center a few months ago and, packed house. He's doing the residency right now. in Vegas. It's incredible. 23 years later, he's still doing his thing. That album, Get Rich or Die Trying, is definitely one of the best hip hop albums of all time. There's no question
Well,
about it.
when he hit too, I mean, there was probably for a period of time there was no one bigger
Right.
at
Yeah.
MTV than
Yeah.
50.
Yep. He was bigger
I,
than Eminem at
yeah,
that time. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, In the Club was, I mean, just the hits off of that, 21 Questions, In the Club, Many Men. Yeah, it's just like,
Yeah.
it was incredible. Like, most of the album were singles. They had a video just because it was just so big. It was just one of those things once every 10 years type of situation with an artist like that. And yeah, 50 was just like, he was definitely the guy at the time.
Do you have any story of working with him?
Um, Not directly. Worked more with the Eminem camp than I did with than 50. Met him a couple times. I have a story tied to that though. It was the 2002 VMAs at Radio City. So I was handling Eminem. I was talent handler for M and his camp. And at the time, that was during the heated time with, speaking of 50, him and Ja Rule and Murder Inc. And was told keep M as far away from Ja Rule in his camp as possible. And this is all public knowledge, obviously. This isn't like any secret at the time. So, of course, I'm bringing Eminem backstage. We're going up a flight of stairs, and the door opens, and who is it? Ja Rule in camp. So there was definitely a moment of silence. But then one of M's bodyguards goes, "Hey, Billy." And I was like, "Uh-oh." And then the guy from Ja Rule's camp was like, "Hey, Tommy, what's up?" And I was like, "Oh, thank God." Well, they were actually friends. I mean, I'm sure most of them weren't friends, but at least these two guys were friendly enough that it calmed things down really quickly. And M and Ja were far away from each other enough that it wasn't like they were gonna anything was gonna happen. But yeah, that was a hold your breath moment when it came to some of the talent handling that I was doing back then.
I may have shared this already, but I do have one 50 story. So for .com, we were up on the 29th floor
Yep.
for a while, and then on the 8th floor. And, it was always a challenge to get talent, especially big name talent, to come upstairs to do some stuff with us rather than just in the TRL green room or in the studio down there.
Right.
But we did get 50, and David Saslow said yes to 50 coming up to do some stuff with us for .com. So I go to pick him up at the TRL studio. He goes into the green room, takes his t-shirt off, takes his shirt off, puts his bulletproof vest on, puts his shirt back on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, he's safe walking through the lobby, but I'm standing in front of him.
I
So I'm
hope
like,
you had yours on.
Yeah.
no, I was like, are you kidding me? I just would never have expected it. That
Yeah.
was one thing that sort of blew my mind about an artist, is that he literally had to do that just to walk from a studio to an elevator.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he
Crazy.
has the vest on in the front cover of Get Rich, so
Exactly.
that kinda says something right there. Also with 50, we were at TRL and The Game was just coming out, with his debut, and The Game was signed to 50's label, G Unit, and, right there, you can kinda tell there was some tension already because, once again, public knowledge that, those 2 really didn't get along too well. And it was just another situation where you're like, all right, just want to make sure everything's all good. When everybody was in a decent mood, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the risk you take when you're doing when you're doing this stuff, just as far as talent. And it doesn't even mean just hip hop. I'm talking about, trust me, I've had my experiences, near death experiences, I should say, with some of the rock acts that I've dealt with. So it can be a risky situation. Most people think like, oh my God, you get to hang out with the stars and all this stuff. And I'm sure you're best friends with everybody now, but there's a lot of red tape that goes with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, even on the pop side, there was, I don't want to say feuds to that extent, but there were certain artists that you kept apart
Right.
if you were
Yeah.
backstage at a show also, because
Right.
you knew that neither one wanted to see the other.
Right. And then there were
So
situations we're filming an episode of Headbangers, and one artist really, really wanted to talk to the other one, and the other one really didn't want to talk to the other artist. So we had to do some kind of finessing and things like that to say, yeah, he's not really feeling good, so we're gonna have to just keep him in the green room. Sorry, man. Maybe next time. But one of the great things that I saw just as far as artists meeting artists was right after 9/11, MTV did some programming just around the whole situation, and Ozzy Osbourne and Paul McCartney were there,
Oh,
wow.
and Ozzy was a huge, still is, a huge Beatles fan, and that was the first time Ozzy met Paul McCartney, like, literally
that's
right in
insane.
front of me, and to see somebody of Ozzy's caliber, but, then again, Ozzy's one of the most humble rock stars in the world, and just to see the fandom and the excitement and the awe of Ozzy meeting his, like, hero that he never met was really, really incredible. Just that moment right there, I'll never forget seeing that because, most of the time it's like, "Hey, how you doing? Cool, alright, I'll see you guys later," whatever. But this was like a real genuine moment for no question, one of the biggest rock idols
What
ever.
about Paul meeting Ozzy? He was like,
I think
whatever.
Paul was like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" I mean, obviously, they're two completely different artists, but
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, Paul definitely had respect for Ozzy, there was no question about it.
right.
But because Ozzy was just such a fan and grew up with him, and the Beatles were such a inspiration to Ozzy, it was just like such a great moment to see.
Well,
Th-
this is the third episode Paul McCartney's come up.
Uh,
So if you're listening, Paul, we'd love to have you on our
Lead him
show.
on, man.
and those are like the experiences that you can have nowhere else but MTV, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
I
I agree
mean,
with some of those.
just
Yeah,
the amount of talent that came through that building every single day was incredible. Speaking of, we used to have meetings with labels and they'd bring artists in for us to meet, whether it was, a new project or it was a new signing or something along those lines. Without naming names, if you want to drop a hint, feel free. Do you have a crazy story of a label meeting with an artist coming in?
the one that really sticks out to me most wasn't a label meeting per se, but we were trying to do some type of like reality show with an artist, and he came in with his manager, and just right from the get-go, you could tell something was not good. He was just really, really kind of out of it, and it was really sad because we're talking about an artist that really was known for his personality and, just really kind of way out there. We're expecting him to come in, be very excited about it, definitely a big opportunity. So we really thought he was going to be excited about it. And he might have said like three words in the whole meeting. So that was a little disappointing. So if you're talking about like an awkward
Did
situation,
that show end up airing, or at least a
never aired.
pilot?
Nah, it
Nothing.
didn't get,
He blew
unfortunately,
it.
it didn't get past
Whoever he is,
that conversation.
he blew it. What about an artist that was brand new that you met for the first time that now today is like a global superstar? Like and Ed Sheeran. There's obviously stories where people met Ed for the first time, or I remember when Bruno Mars came in for the first time. Rihanna's done it.
A story pre MTV, if you guys want to hear it. There was a cable show, big like cable convention. All the channels, all the big cable companies and whatnot would converge. And this was in Chicago. I was programming, but talent booking at the time. And there was this new group called Destiny's Child. No, no, no wasn't even out yet. Like at least the remix, the original version, which didn't do anything, that was more of a ballad, might have been out, and Columbia Records were really pushing them and just trying to get them out there. So we booked them for this cable convention that they would be on this like little stage right in the middle of our booth basically to perform a few songs. But before that, they were picked up in a school bus. I guess we didn't have the budget for a nice
A
sprinter van or
limo, yeah.
whatever. So we picked them up in a school bus, and I remember it was literally the driver, me, and the four members of Destiny's
Wow.
Child. And at the time, I was a big mixtape DJ, and I had one of their songs on my mixtape. So I I gave them each one of my mixtapes that had them on, and they were like, "Oh my god, thank you so much!" Because don't forget, this was when nobody knew who they were.
Right.
Nobody was really checking for them, and
You
they
should
were
have put
just
it on
like,
the CD player.
yeah, it wasn't even a CD. It was like these were all cassettes at the time,
Right.
and they were really excited about it. But that, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to hear a Beyonce story, that's kind of my most memorable one.
So do you think Beyonce is still listening to that today?
Oh, I'm sure she still has it. Worships it and is, you
It's
know,
in her trophy cabinet.
yeah, it's in the trophy cabinet. She might put out a box set of it, later on. At the time, there were just a lot of big artists that were coming in. We had like Buzzworthy and You Hear It First. Um,
It was a
Artists
time
like,
where, those artists that you mentioned, 50, Ja Rule,
yeah.
Eminem, that was those years. We're going to take a segment off and include a little trivia for you.
Uh-oh.
I think this one's going to be good. I've tried to snuff people out, and I think this should be pretty easy.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Name 2 artists that appeared in any episode of MTV's Cribs. Okay.
Redman and Justin Timberlake.
Okay. I didn't have a list. I was just gonna say yes to any artist.
Okay, there you go.
Redman was
the
it
Redman
was an
one.
apartment, right? It was
Yeah, yeah,
it
on
was
Staten Island,
Yeah,
right?
it was like some
Love
apartment,
it.
and God knows where it was, and yeah, I mean, that was the one that really kind of set it off. Oh, Osbournes. I mean, that
Was it?
one,
That was
the Osbournes. If you want to hear a story behind that, I don't know if you guys know it or not, but
was the show influenced by that taping? Probably.
oh,
Oh,
the thing is,
absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah, they went to the Osbournes' house, and they were
And
filming,
they
and it was really
never
just
left.
it was supposed to be about the house, but then they saw like the kids fighting and how they were interacting with Ozzy, and thankfully somebody was like, this could kind of make a good show. And one thing led to another, and yeah, they did like a pilot, and it went over really, really well, and
Right.
that's how the Osbournes came about, that whole show,
Yeah.
because it was kind of fluky because of they went there originally to shoot Cribs.
Yeah.
And
I
then
remember.
later on, I remember I saw the pilot before any of the Osbournes did, and I was at a Ozzy Rob Zombie concert at the Meadowlands, and Sharon was there, Ozzy's wife, and I went up to her and I said, I saw the pilot, and she's like, "Oh my god, tell me about it. How did it look?" I'm like,
Right.
I can say it now and look like a genius or whatever, but literally I was like, this is gonna be pretty big. And she's like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to see it," and da da da. So that was pretty, yeah. So speaking of
Justin
the
said
Osbournes,
it first.
yeah, Justin said it first.
All
You
right.
hear it first.
You hear it, right?
What was the hip hop franchise on MTV2 called?
The hip hop, Sucker Free.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Who was the host of 120 Minutes?
Oh, come on, really? I mean, obviously Matt Pinfield.
Okay.
Yeah, but
All
then
right.
there was a couple other ones, but Matt was obviously the guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was one of my biggest accomplishments at MTV, was programming 120 Minutes.
Yeah.
It didn't last long, but it was
But
good.
Matt wasn't on that again, was he?
He was,
Oh,
absolutely.
he came back. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Matt and I missed each other on MTV, and then we were at Farm Club together for a minute because he was hosting the TV show with Ali Landry, the Doritos girl. And then, yeah, that's right. Then I guess he did come back to MTV for 120
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. In 2003, MTV aired Icon, Metallica.
Yeah.
You heard of those guys, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. There was lots of medleys, a lot of artists. Can you name one artist that performed a medley?
Kid Rock was one of them. Well, there was Kid Rock, I think Korn.
Okay, I'll take Korn. I did
Okay,
not
yeah,
have
Korn.
Kid Rock. Yeah, he may have.
Kid Rock was Aerosmith Icon, my bad.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, Korn.
All right. Bonus question. Can you
Uh-oh.
name the song?
That
That
Korn
Korn-
did? Did they do one? Did they do one?
They did. Look at you. Other artists were Snoop, who did Sad But True, Limp
Yep,
Bizkit,
yeah,
Welcome Home Sanitarium,
yep.
Avril Lavigne did Fuel,
Oh, wow.
Stained. You want to
Yeah.
take a guess on that song?
Oh, what Stain did?
Yeah,
Um, they if anything, they would do Oh, Nothing Else Matters.
Oh
correct.
my
Woo!
God, how do you remember this?
And
Woo!
Sum 41 did a medley of For Whom the Bell Tolls, Enter Sadman, and Master of Puppets.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
You did good, man. All right.
Alright, still got it. Still got some brain cells left after all these years.
The taking away from music,
Yeah.
what do both MTV reality series Dismissed and Room Raiders have in common? Not talking about music.
Oh, okay.
These are other afternoon
Right, yeah, franchises.
shows. What
Yeah.
do both Dismissed and Room Raiders, which I believe you were there when those shows were airing in the afternoon after TRL, what do both those shows having
They have the same host?
no, like what was the common theme in the format?
Or the subject matter.
The subject. There you go.
Room Raiders was more about fandom, like, people that were fans of artists, and they had, like,
No.
stuff on the wall and things.
Well, because this was when I worked in programming and
Yeah,
I would watch shows apart from the music videos I aired, but they were
right.
both dating shows.
I never would've got that.
Right.
Yeah, I knew of them and I knew the names, but I really had nothing to do with either of those shows, programming-wise or whatever.
It doesn't
So,
matter. You
sorry.
you should have known they were
I know.
the only thing
Sorry,
airing.
I knew all the music questions, but I
Yeah,
didn't know
exactly.
yeah,
You need to brush up on
on the reality or
your
whatever those were.
90s dating
Yeah.
MTV shows. All right. I think you did good.
Getting back into music videos, in your time leading into your career at MTV, while you're at MTV and post MTV, have you seen a shift in the production of music videos? And while you were at MTV, is there one that you saw that was so creative it just completely blew you away?
Yeah, we're in the day of anybody can do it, and that doesn't mean everybody can do it well, unfortunately. So there's still a lot of great videos out there. I mean, Doechii just came out with this awesome video, like a sitcom spoof. So in terms of creativity, we're still seeing definitely a lot of great videos come out. Not Like Us is another one that, really killed it last year. As far as when I was at MTV, you always got to go to Missy Elliott for creativity and Work It came out and everyone obviously she had all the other videos, Super Duper Fly and everything else, but when Work It came out, it was just on another level and we were just like blown away by that. So Missy definitely sticks in my mind. But then on the flip side, we were talking about the Strokes and last night was probably as far from the Missy videos you can get. It was just them basically on a stage playing. It was shot in video. It wasn't even shot on film. But once again, really creative just in terms of captivating, not to mention that the song kicked ass and everything else too. It looked
Yeah.
like almost like a 70s show type of situation. White Stripes, Seven Nation Army was another one that definitely sticks in my mind as far as creative. And Snoop with Pharrell, Drop It Like It's Hot was real basic, but it was shot so stylishly, black and white, and just kind of the panning of the camera. So those type of videos just really stick in my mind. Once again, they don't have to be the most creative, but they have to be the most creative in a sense.
Right.
When you're thinking about videos, some of the most basic videos are some of the best videos ever.
One
So,
that blew me away back in the day was the one take videos. So you
oh
look at
yeah, okay, go.
oh yeah, with the treadmill, mute math, typical that was shot
Yep,
backwards. Coldplay did one backwards.
yeah.
So
The
there was
Far
an
Side did one backwards,
yeah, yeah,
way
yeah,
back. Yeah, way back. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, then
Try
other
to do
artists did
it.
it, some did it
Yeah,
well, and once again, some didn't,
yeah.
but yeah, the creativity was definitely there, and once again, I mean, budgets were a little higher than probably they are these days. Video is still vital, I think, to an artist now that image is everything. Fortunately, I guess, unfortunately, in some senses, you gotta
Um,
be, you gotta be on top of your audience 24/7 now.
you look
So
at how much content can come out of a music video
right,
aside from just that 3.5 minute video.
Totally.
You got bonus, behind the scenes,
You got
photos. So from one
visualizers.
video shoot, an artist can have so much content.
And that's the thing. It's like you have visualizers, you have lyric videos now. You just have what we call pseudo videos, which is really just the audio with maybe the album cover or whatever. But what we're also seeing now is videos are getting shorter and shorter by newer artists. So like song lengths now are like maybe a minute 20, a minute 30, and that's the full song. Whereas back in the
Wow.
day, that was like, oh, it's a snippet. Cool. Where's the rest of the video?
Wow.
Nowadays, these videos are getting shorter and shorter. And I think that all comes down to it's pretty obvious just attention spans of
Yeah.
the younger audience. They want to get in and they want to get out. Give me one verse, give me one chorus, and we're out. So we're
So
seeing
so
that.
are you guys accepting that? Because on the reverse side, we would get like a Death Cab for Cutie 12-minute video, and
Right.
we'd be like, we need something. It'd be like, here's a 6. We'd be like, we need something shorter. Are you asking for longer versions?
Well, the thing is, it's like we're a two-sided when it comes to
Or is a
Vevo.
radio edit, is there a radio version that's longer? Or
Yeah, I mean, at Vivo, we're kind of playing both sides of the coin because we have the VOD side, which is YouTube, and we also have a connected TV app that you can watch stuff on demand. But we also have linear channels on connected TV. And when I say connected TV, that's like Pluto TV, Samsung TV Plus. So we have program channels. On those, we definitely look for shorter versions, edited versions of videos. But when it comes to VOD, video on demand, if you want to make an hour video, that's fine because somebody's going in, they want to watch it, they watch as long as they want and get out. But yeah, it's a different dynamic, kind of TV versus online in a sense, or on mobile, just because viewing habits are so different. There's definitely a longer viewing habit when it comes to TV versus on demand. You're kind of in and out on your phone, but when you're watching TV, you kind of leave it on for a while and you kind of let it run. We definitely look for the shorter the better on TV and more of the whatever you
right.
want to do, the longer and unedited VOD
We
wise.
experimented with that on MTV where we did 90-second videos.
I
Don't
remember that.
forget how long it
Yeah.
lasted. But yeah, I mean, labels were kind of happy, I guess. We were really putting a mandate on it, but they would have to deliver us a 90-second edited version.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That can get a little dangerous because we never, and when I say we, I'm talking about Vivo, we never want to blur the artist's vision. We never want to tell them how long the video has to be, how short the video has to be, how many colors have to be in the video. We definitely encourage them. We want, yeah, we definitely want to get the product that they want to deliver. So I don't think we would ever say, hey, we'd only need a 90-second snippet of a particular video that might be 3 or 4 minutes. That could become a little dangerous. But if we get a video from an artist that the full song is a minute 30, it kind of is what it is now. Like, that's the new norm in a sense with a lot of these artists.
The programming that you're doing now is completely different than what we were doing at MTV. You had to fit X
Yeah.
amount of videos into an hour block with commercials in it. I mean,
Right.
it's very different.
Yeah, well, we're still like I said, we're still doing that on our linear channels. We have 16 linear channels that play everything from genre specific to decade specific. We're still kind of in that TV mindset when it comes to those channels, but it's a lot more open when it comes to the VOD sides. There's really two different mindsets when it comes to programming what we're doing at Vivo now.
We're coming to the end. It's been a really good
Oh,
chat. One second to last question. Was your role at MTV instrumental to your career journey? And did you also realize that the role you had at MTV gave you a lot of power to break new artists? And
yeah.
did you ever take a step back and realize that? Because now we're talking about those things. When you're in it, Perry said it, I think every episode, you don't get to appreciate, but,
Yeah.
but you're in it now. So it's probably a bit different for you.
It's a little different. Back then I was a complete narcissist and I didn't care about anybody and no, I'm joking. No. I hope I built a reputation on being one of the good guys.
Well,
Um
look where you are now. I mean, you've had a consistent career,
I guess.
so
Yeah,
speaks
no,
for
I mean
itself.
that's the whole thing. When I was at MTV, we definitely knew we had power, but it really depended on the person you're talking to. I know with me, I appreciated every day I was there. I grew up with MTV. I started watching it in August of 1981 when it premiered. So it always had a very, very special place in my heart. And it was kind of a dream to work there. I mean, it really was always sort of a dream for me to work there. But when I got there, I definitely didn't take it for granted. I tried to do as much as I could. Just as far as like that power that you had, I was already at a couple other outlets, so it wasn't like I was coming right out of college and going into MTV and like, "Oh my god, I'm the shit now. I'm at MTV and da da da." I went in there like, this is the major leagues now. Not to say that my other jobs weren't big because they were on a national level, but when it comes to MTV, I mean, that's the name everybody knows from your grandparents on down. So when I was at MTV, I never took it for granted. Um, Definitely had power, but never abused it. Never
Right.
wanted to abuse it. I think I was very fair with the
A decision
labels.
maker. How's that?
Yeah, decision maker, there you go. Definitely fair with the labels, definitely fair with the artists. I mean, I'd be straight up with a lot of the labels too. If something wasn't great, I'd be like, "This isn't," I know it's a priority. And obviously the
Yeah, we'll give
situation
it to .com.
Yeah,
right.
right.
We'll give it a .com.
We'll let it air online.
That's the funny thing too, because back in the day, I mean, I'll admit when, on our side, on the TV side of MTV, we looked at MTV.com as our like, little baby, baby brother. Little did we know that .com would take over at some point. But Perry, I always had respect for you guys. I love
No,
the
absolutely. I never doubted it.
yeah,
We didn't, it was weird. We felt part of the company, but not necessarily fully integrated into the
yeah.
company at
Well,
the same time.
it was still early days,
Yeah.
for .com and for everything. So that's the thing when you're in what you call new media, you're definitely going to feel that way. But yeah, I always felt it was important. .com was definitely important because a lot of the times there might be something that I might not be able to really fully support on my end, but I knew you guys could, which was always great. Especially with the baby bands.
We had a luxury and a freedom to kind of
Yeah,
do whatever we really wanted to do with an artist. And,
right,
sometimes it was an artist who went nowhere, and sometimes it was an artist who blew up. And
right.
it was amazing to be on that journey with them.
No, totally, and when you think about it, .com back then in 2001 was almost like MTV 1981 because back
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
they were playing anything that they wanted to basically. They didn't really have as many videos to choose from till later on, but they could take any video and blow it up. The Buggles is a great example. Video killed the radio star. People forget that that video was out or that song was out for like 2 years and nobody gave it any attention. It was an
Right.
old video, scraping on the floor. Nobody even knew who they were. And MTV launches with this video, and boom, all of a sudden, the Buggles, although people know more about the song than they do about the group, blew up. But that just showed the power of MTV back then, and they could take anything and make it something. And I think what you guys were doing back then was sort of similar, just in terms of the freedom to be able to do whatever you guys wanted, in a sense.
There's this band called Tokyo Hotel. I don't know if
Oh
you
yeah, of
remember them
course,
at
yeah,
all,
yeah,
where they were so there. It was one of the first times. I mean, obviously the NSYNC fans and the Britney fans and whatever, but they were huge on TV too.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
Tokyo Hotel was one of the first times I remember a band being it sort of happened all online first. Like there
Mhm.
was the fandom online for anything that we put up from that band was incredible. And
Yeah,
then it started to translate to like TRL and then even the VMAs.
right. Yeah, they had a huge following. They're from Sweden. I'm trying to remember where they were from.
Germany, right? I think. Are they
Germany. You're right.
German?
You're right. Yeah, it was Germany. But as soon as I saw them, I mean, just such a different look with the lead singer and then the brother with everything going on. He had the dreads and the whole thing. It was just such like a different look. They're on a new compilation called A Whole New Sound from Disney that redoes a lot of the old Disney songs, but they
Oh
were
wow.
they're one of the bands on it and look completely different now, but they're still doing their
I'd
thing.
like
So
to see a before and after.
yeah, definitely you need to see it before and after. I really like that back in the day. Yeah.
All right. So Last question. What we've been doing with all of our guests for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 episodes. We've talked about this before, but, and with you specifically, you're somebody who tends to go out to a lot of shows.
A
And
couple.
so, is there a favorite New York City venue that you have or that you used to have? And can you tell us about the best show that you ever saw there?
Oh, it's like choosing your favorite kid.
And I don't think we've had anyone that goes to as much shows, which we
It,
did speak to Lou Smith, and he would
Oh yeah, well,
like
Lou,
you
yeah.
know,
Lou
yeah.
definitely is like kind of like neck and neck with me when it comes to shows. He might go to a little more because he goes to these other shows that I think are
You've
just filler shows that he just goes to try to beat me up. I was thinking about this. There's so many great venues in the city as well as in Brooklyn, but I would have to say, and it's another two-sided coin, Mercury Lounge,
mm,
because that's the place where really everybody starts. You
nice and
know,
intimate too.
yeah, it's intimate, holds only a couple hundred people, and they've hosted many shows over the years, and mainly new artists that are just breaking out, like Ed Sheeran. That I think his first New York show was there. Mercury Lounge. Mercury Lounge is the place where if you go and see a great show with a great band, is the best place in the world to see a show because you are kind of like smushed in, but that's one of the nice little kind of personalities of it as well. I would have to say Mercury only because I've just seen like so many bands there and then just blow up. And if I had to pick one, I mean, there's definitely many, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably say Kings of Leon. And
mm,
and I'm gonna say Kings of Leon only because it was probably their best worst show ever. Meaning they were still so green and they had no real experience with audiences, but the songs were just so on point and the sound was great. And you know their songs. I mean, especially like the first few albums. It was just so on point. So yeah, I would have to say Mercury, but definitely shout out to Bowery Ballroom. I'm kind of overall, that's the place where there sort of is no bad place to watch, unless you're upstairs and way behind and you can't see over the balcony. But I would have to say that. I would have to say RIP to Roseland, which was a great,
yeah.
so many great shows at Roseland. And there's some great venues like Baby's All Right is Mercury Lounge Brooklyn. A lot of bands are coming up from there now in that intimate setting. There's just so many great venues here. It's
And
really,
you've been to the Brooklyn Paramount.
yeah, actually, I've
That
seen a
is a
few
good
shows there.
venue.
I've seen a few shows there recently, and that place is great. There's those historic venues that you just walk in and go, "Holy shit." Paramount's definitely one of them. Beacon Theater is one of them. King's Theater is one of them. The United Palace, way uptown, is one of them as well. I mean, you can just tell the detail of the building and everything. It's just
And
incredible. So,
MSG.
well, MSG, I mean, is I guess the king and queen of venues.
Yeah.
And speaking of MSG, the most, if you're asking, the probably the one of the most memorable shows I saw at MSG was U2 right after 9/11. I don't know if you
mm,
guys, got
Mm.
to see them, but they played their show, and U2 was U2 at the time, and the album, um, All Things You Can't Leave Behind was out, and I love that album. But at the end, they scrolled all the names of all the people
Oh wow.
from the Twin Towers as well as, the Pentagon, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And
Yeah.
this was still really, really fresh to everybody. That was definitely one of the most
Leave it to you
memorable,
two to
just
pull
like,
that
I mean,
off.
just
Yeah.
impactful, powerful, never mind the music or anything like that, but just
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, literally not a dry eye in the house. So sorry to have a bummer story at the end, but yeah, I mean, when it comes to MSG, I that's probably out of all the millions of shows I've seen there, that's probably the one that really sticks out, because of that moment.
Where are we seeing Oasis in the summer?
You tell me, man. We'll be definitely in Jersey.
Oh right,
Uh,
yeah. I
I know
forgot.
you have. I know you have tickets already to the UK show. One of,
London, yep, yep.
yeah. So I got to figure out possibly getting out there for one of those. But yeah, I mean, I would say at least Jersey we got to hang for
I
that one.
have a few extras if you want to do the plane ticket.
Oh, do you? All right. All right, let's figure that out. But yeah, definitely want to see Oasis back together. I remember, you did ask me Oasis versus Blur, and there's just no competition. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Even, yeah,
I left that out.
okay.
Well, we're done, bro. This was
All
fun.
right. Yeah, really fun. I've known you guys forever. It's great to reminisce about all this stuff. It was a special time. I mean, we're definitely all privileged that we got to work at MTV. I mean, when I know looking at the outside, some people always called it the evil empire, the Death Star when you don't really know about it, but really inside there was a lot of
We had a great
music,
2 years.
a lot of music lovers there and people that were really really passionate about it. And it was really a special place to work.
People were smart, they were creative, they were passionate,
Yeah.
they believed in what they were doing, and everybody wanted everybody to succeed too. I mean,
Definitely.
it really wasn't a place where where people were
You
like,
were kind of
"Oh,
like
well."
crabs in a barrel. You weren't crabs in a barrel, and I think that had to do with because you were playing on a winning team. When you're playing on a winning team, everybody's encouraging each other because
Right,
it's that camaraderie, just really all being together and really fighting the good fight together and winning. And
right,
I think
right.
that's the reason why there was that feeling of kind of family and everybody really trying to help out each other.
And we wanted to find as many different ways as we could to get the music out there
Right,
to people too. And
right.
it wasn't like anybody felt like, "Oh, you know, we don't like this band, so we're not going to do anything." It was just sort of like, "No, let's do as much as we can for everybody."
No, totally, and
Yeah,
I also think that when it came to the bigger artists, those are the easy part of the job.
right.
Beyonce's gonna be huge with or without MTV. Jay-Z's gonna be huge with or without MTV. Drake is gonna be huge. When it came to the baby bands, that's what I think everybody was all for one for all on in terms of trying to blow up these artists. That was the passion. My mother could program all the big superstars. When it came to those, real small artists that we were really passionate about, that's really where I think everybody really, really kind of came together and wanted to win. Be able to fly the flag that said, yeah, we were one of the first to really encourage and help this artist blow up.
And it was everybody had a different taste also, and that
Yeah.
helped make it an incredible place to be because it was everyone brought something different to the table.
Yep. No, no, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was great, and that's another thing. I mean, I think everybody talks about DEI and all that today, which is encouraged, but even back then, there was just such a mix of great people that also really helped us shine.
Yep.
Because if you're just having a group of people that are all thinking the same way, you're gonna be VH1 in 1985. So to have such a great mix of people really just made us shine even more.
Right, right. Well, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and have a
No,
great
absolutely.
start to the year,
Yes.
and we'll
Yeah,
see
great
you at the
talking to you
next gig.
guys as always.
If you need a +1, man, I'm always around.
I'll hit you up,
Yeah.
you know? You too, Perry. I
Thank
don't know.
you. I appreciate it.
All right.
All
All
right,
right.
guys.
See ya.
Thank you,
Bye.
Justin.
All right, thank you guys.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you for joining us today in the Music Lounge.
And tune in next week to hear more stories about your favorite era of MTV.